Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first webinar for 2021. So I promise not to bore you by PowerPoint. There's no death by PowerPoint. We want to keep these sessions short, so 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes max. We want to try to keep it as interactive as possible. So if you do have questions, please fire away. I do have Ranil in the background that's running the whole thing for us, and he will also control the questions for us. And being technical, he'll keep me on the straight and narrow as well. So feel free to ask questions as we go along. So anyway, the topic this morning is really about Microsoft 365 and why we need to back it up. Now, just want to set the scene. I mean, a lot of us are using Microsoft as a tool. So Microsoft 365 is what we're utilizing. But I think, we have a range of different packages available from Microsoft, ranging from the E5 package all the way down to business standard, and there are packages below that as well, which are cloud-based only. But the point I want to make here is each one of these packages comes with a different level of features and functionality, and that is dictated to by the price that you're paying for those licenses. So this is not a Microsoft 365 plan discussion. It's really about why we want to back up our Microsoft 365 environment. So just keep it in mind that each plan has different levels of data retention. There might be different policies associated to each plan. So it really depends on what plan you're on. And I think the poll that we ran last week, and the beginning of this week actually, is just to see which plan do the majority of the people use. And our LinkedIn audience is predominantly running the Microsoft 365 E5 plan, which is quite interesting. But I think a lot of your SME is business standard, business premium, and sort of in that area of licensing. So the reason why we wanted to have a chat today about this topic is that we keep getting this misconception that Microsoft 365 does not need to have a backup. Now, granted, we are working with an amazing tool, but Microsoft themselves, and I'll show you now, actually request or suggest that you back up your environment as well. Now, just to set the scene, we're talking about a cloud-based tool and a cloud-based subscription tool. When you stop subscribing to service, obviously you don't get the service, and whatever data that you have in that environment will eventually fall away. How long it's retained on the platform is dictated to by the level of licensing that you have with Microsoft. So just to set the scene around Microsoft terms and conditions, you can actually Google this, just search for service agreement, Microsoft service agreement. You'll come up to the web page, you'll see there, this is microsoft.com/en-za/service agreement. Scroll down to section 6, and I will just zoom us in so we can actually read it. And I'll read it out for everybody. So we strive to keep the services up and running. However, all online services suffer occasionally disruptions and outages, and Microsoft is not liable for any disruption or loss you may suffer as a result. In the event of an outage, you may not be able to retrieve your content or data that you stored. We recommend that you regularly back up your content and data that you store on the services or store using third-party apps and services. So in other words, back up your data with a third-party tool. And that's really the topic that we want to talk about. So guys, if you've got questions, please stop us on the way. Renee will stop us and fire those questions away. So the first thing, there's a couple of points that I just want to highlight here. And aside from Microsoft telling us to back up the environment, and they suggest that's a good idea, you also want to keep control. So a tailor-made solution or a third-party solution allows you to keep control of your environment. And there are 3 key points here. So obviously the first one is you're avoiding dependency on one vendor. So you're not dependent on Microsoft for holding all the data and making sure it's secure, but you have another vendor there, which is completely separate to the Microsoft environment that you can store your data with. The second point is setting up your own retention policies. Now, one of the first questions that our team asks when we engage with a new customer is, how long are you prepared to be down? In other words, if there is a major outage, how long can you be without your systems or without your data? And that's going to dictate what your retention policies are. It's going to dictate what your backup strategies are, and how complex that backup strategy is going to be as well. And obviously there's a level of cost that comes up with that, depending on which direction you're going. But setting your own retention policies is critical. So if you need to retain data for 7 years, or you need to retain data for 5 years, you can set those policies and you can set them on a file level or a folder level structure as well. One of the other things is compliance issues. Now, the biggest compliance issue that we all experience is when somebody leaves the organization, they have a whole host of data. That data resides in their inbox, or alternatively residing in a SharePoint folder or on their OneDrive. And the minute that user is deleted from the environment, you lose that data. So compliance issues range depending on who your compliance is with, whether it's POPI or whether it's GDPR or any of the other multinational compliance agencies out there. But each one of them has different levels of compliancy for different types of data. So this allows you to make sure that you can retain data for an extended period of time and make sure that when users leave the organization, you still have access to that data, that it is not deleted. Another one is, we all don't really want to have any negative impact on our businesses. So we need to avoid any possibility of that. So another thing that comes up quite often is I often hear people saying that our users, we don't need to back up the user data. We've got Microsoft 365, and also we've got the recycle bin. So if they do accidentally delete something, it's in the recycle bin. Now, that is not a backup strategy. So what happens if you have a malicious attack? So you have a disgruntled employee or a hacking attack of some sort, which actually goes out of the way to delete information. And then deleting out a recycle bin, deleting the user's hard drive, deleting wherever they can get the data. So whether it's malicious or accidental, you have the ability to recover everything if it is deleted. And I think that is one of the critical aspects of also having a separate backup strategy or a separate backup tool that allows you to do that. Another thing is preventing delay due to data loss. And I alluded to it just now. How long can your business be down? How long are you prepared to be without information that you cannot generate revenue inside your business? So the delay, there's always a delay in restoring, there's always a delay in trying to find the data. So without a third-party tool, you're not going to have that backup strategy in place. You're not going to have the maximum levels or the maximum amount of time that you're allowed to, or to delay, the delay in actually getting that business up and running, getting access to that data again. So third-party tool, you know where the data is, you know how long it takes you to restore the data, you've done all your homework, you've got your strategies in place, and your business will actually function according to those strategies. Another area is enhancing of security. So by using a third-party tool like Redstore, one of the key things is ransomware. So I think if you look in the press of the last couple of months, ransomware is on the increase. They're getting more sophisticated. They are attacking us from sort of entry points where we work from home. COVID has made us work from home, and a lot of us are a lot more productive working from home, which is a different discussion. But it also opens up companies' networks to multiple access points around the country. And ransomware has the ability to get in. So by having a third-party tool, what you're doing is you're actually storing the data away from your environment. It's in a secure, encrypted cloud environment, which is off-site, away from your users and away from your Office 365 environment. So that in itself plays a massive role in reducing ransomware attacks. The other one is separate roles. It's a security standard. So what we have is the ability to allow our users to back up or restore single files on their own accord. So we can grant them different rights to access different bits of information that they can restore. Okay, and obviously we can also do that at a higher level where we have different systems administrators or IT managers that are applicable or that are available and that can access data according to their security roles. So that is one of the key elements as well as what you need to look at with a third-party backup tool. So just to summarize those 3 points, the isolated backup strategy is vital for compliance purposes, extended retention, and catering for deleted users. And that's specifically what we're looking at here, is whoever accesses your data or touches your data, we need to ensure that they can't delete, can't accidentally delete, get rid of that data, even if they're leaving the organization, that data resides somewhere and that we can retain it according to the compliance policies in place. So that brings me to the tool set that we utilize. So, we use RedStore for all our customers. It's sort of woven into our managed service providing offering. So we do desktop, we do service backup strategies. We have specific programs that allow you to back up your environment. And also, we've got some complex different backup scenarios as well for different clients as well. But I think the key thing about RedStore is it is a cloud offering. It allows you to back up your data to a secure cloud, as I said earlier. One of the benefits thereof is there's no requirement for local hardware. There's no impact on your bandwidth or your local storage. You can instantly recover your 365 data from anywhere to anywhere. So if you have a major outage where your office burns down, you can get a new office up and running and restore your information to the localized folders, although your cloud offering would obviously still be in place. There's no increase in different costs based on restoring, retaining, and moving data around, etc. You have a simple bill, pretty easy to understand, and it stays pretty static. It only really goes up when we are increasing the amount of data that we are backing up. You manage your Microsoft 365 data environment through one central system, and it is pretty simple to use. Sets up in minutes, auto scaling, protection of Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams, and I'm going to drill down into what level of protection we do in the next 2 slides. And lastly, which I think probably the most important point on this whole slide, is RedStore has a locally based data center that is ISO accredited. Okay. A lot of times you're using a third-party tool and that data is not stored locally, you're not complying to POPI, so your compliancy goes out the window completely. So POPI and GDPR would be the 2 key ones for us in South Africa at the moment. So what are the features and functions that we do get out of RedStore's backup environment? So from their backup and restore environment, first one is Exchange, mail. So there's a few points here that we need to touch on. So firstly, we can do single item recovery for a mail, contact, or calendar items, or we could do multiple mailbox recoveries. We can do calendar backups and recoveries, contact backup and recoveries, and obviously we can search by recipient, sender, or subject. Within the OneDrive environment, it's a file and folder level recovery. It's single item recovery, and again, we can search by name or folder. The next point is really around SharePoint. So we can back up and recover all files, but we cannot do custom selection within the SharePoint environment. We can back up and recover all document library files. Again, there's no custom selection for files there. We can recover of documents into existing document libraries, and we can recover of site documents to original or new locations. And the fourth part of this is Teams. And within Teams, we can back up and recover of the Teams members and the owner metadata. We can back up the public and private channels, again, member and owner metadata. We can back up the posts, messages, replies, and images. We can back up the links to recordings. And just on the recordings as well, because often when you're recording and you're storing the recording in a separate file, you can actually back up that folder, which is outside of Teams as well. So just bear that in mind. And lastly, backing up of the Teams tabs. So, ladies and gentlemen, that actually brings us to the end of the session. I promised you it's not really death by PowerPoint, and we definitely want to do more of these sessions and make them more sort of short and sweet and to the point, giving you the information. I hope it helps you. Hope it opens your eyes to what you require to do in your organization for backup strategy, and that Microsoft 365 definitely needs to be backed up. But if there are questions, I've been rambling way too long, and I think it's time for us to answer any questions that you may have. So please type the questions out. I'm pretty sure René's already got a few there that he's going to run through for us at the moment.
Hi, Dylan. Hi, everyone. Sorry for jumping in here from the side. Okay, so there's a few questions here regarding how to calculate the amount of data being backed up. At the moment, RedStore doesn't have a tool to calculate the data usage, but it's quite easy. We can see the amount of data just by selecting what you want to back up. And of course, we'll also be able to persuade RedStore to give us a POC. So yeah, it's also a great opportunity to test the product. Let me just see, there's quite a few here. Next question, does the backup size refer to the actual data or the collective backups for all of the versions? At the moment, RedStore doesn't back up the historical versions in OneDrive itself, but it does keep track of all the changes. So the moment you start a backup, you start building up your backup history. And I think the rest we'll answer via email, perhaps. Dylan, if you're happy with that.
Yeah.
There's quite a few questions.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for actually listening to us chat away. And be sure to look out for our next session. We're going to be doing them every month. So probably same time next month, we will pick a different topic and we'll run through that for you next time. Until then, take care and we'll catch up later. Cheers for now.